have the greatest job in the world, and that's working with dogs.
Best in Show winner is the French Bulldog.
Winston won the National Dog Show. It was amazing. It was exciting. And to have a dog to be #1 dog in this country, you have to have great nutrition. And I always fed Pro Plan. Just like us, when we eat well, we feel good. And I just love that food and what it's done all these years to all the dogs I've bred and all the dogs I've shown.
Welcome to Pure Dog Talk. I am your host, Laura Reeves, and I'm really excited, you guys. Holiday season's upon us. We're all looking for new gifts. And my guest today is an author, a really talented author of dog-focused children's books. So I'm really excited to welcome Dawn Secord. No relation to the Secord Gallery. We just discussed it. And I really want to talk about, welcome Dawn, I really want to talk about your work and your time in purebred dogs and all that. So excited for you to join us.
All right. Thank you for having me, Laura. I'm so excited to be here, and I've enjoyed your podcast for some time now. So it's really exciting for me. And I have a long history in purebred dogs. Everybody in my family had purebred dogs. My grandparents on my dad's side had foxhounds. My mother's parents raised and showed Kerry Blue Terriers.
Oh, wow.
And that's actually why I started showing dogs, because my grandfather was Irish and he'd passed, but I knew if he could look down and see me running around the ring with an Irish setter, he would be tickled pink. Oh. And my mother had Yorkies and Schnauzers, and my father, he's passed now, but he had Schnauzers and he bred them. My mother bred Yorkies. When I was 18, I was allowed to get my first big dog, and I got a collie, and I could not register him with AKC fast enough. And when I got the paperwork, and I'm 18, I was still in high school, and it was just a thrill for me. So my love has always been Irish setters, and I had wanted an Irish setter since I was 10 years old. I actually had bought a ceramic dog at a ceramic store that was a golden retriever when I was 10, and I painted it red just because.
Love that.
I know. I still have it, but I don't know that I don't ever recall seeing the movie Big Red or being in. I didn't even read the book till I was an adult.
Oh
and
gosh,
I don't
read
know
all of them, all the Big Red books. I read them all when I was a kid.
Right. And, as an adult, I have ordered them and they're sitting on my bookshelf as a to-do because I just think it'd be awesome. I do remember seeing Where the Red Fern Grows and cried my eyes out.
I read multiple times when I was a kid.
Right. But I remember when I was 13, I was walking home from high school, or I guess I would have been in elementary then, here in Dallas, and a 6-month-old Irish setter put itself in my path. So I took my belt off and put it around its neck and took it home. And when my mother got home, it was sitting on the kitchen counter because, then that was, I think, 76. Back then, they were so overbred. And at one point it was on the top bunk of my brother's bunk beds. So mother knew somebody that, raised and bred them in Dallas. And she, it was hard to find, you didn't have the internet to post lost dogs and stuff. So she did find a good place to put the pup, but it wasn't until I was 21 that I could get my first Irish setter, and $100 in the Dallas Morning News. And I could not get there fast enough. And there was a litter of 16, and I was the first to pick a pup. And they had it in a garage in a big whelping box, 16 puppies in a whelping box. I'm telling you, Laura, the smell coming out of that. And I hugged that stinking puppy, and I mean stinking, all the way back to Dallas. But so I love dogs. My family loved dogs. I mean, we're all dog people. My first food, one of the first foods that I really could keep down was a milk bone. And I was a real sick child, and I guess I got into the Schnauzers milk bones. And my mother called the doctor all frantic. Oh my gosh, she ate a milk bone. And the doctor said to her, "Did she keep it down?" And my mother said yes. And he goes, "Good." So no,
oh
I
my
shouldn't.
God, that's amazing.
It's not so funny.
It's amazing.
but I joined back in 1991. I got my first Irish setter that I was going to do something with.
Mhm.
And I joined the Irish Setter Club of Southern California because I
Mhm.
was in Southern California at the time, and I'm still a member. And then when I got my first show Irish was in 97, and the people who had bred them were real established breeders, went on to become mentors for us,
Mhm.
my husband and I. And the husband said to me, "You are going to lose more than you win, but you'll win enough to keep coming back." So I started showing in obedience with the dogs and conformation, and I ended up joining the Irish Setter Club of America. And
Nice.
I've been on their board of directors since 2012, and I'm the
Oh.
corresponding secretary. And I love doing it. I love doing Meet the Dogs. You know, when I was a kid, and I'm going to say probably in elementary school, because of course we had dogs more than we had people over. It seemed
Right.
like.
Right.
And I would meet kids in school that didn't have dogs, or we'd have neighbors come over that didn't have dogs, and the fear that those kids would have. I thought, how sad, because a dog gives you so much. And I can remember when I was probably 10 years old, I started it, neighborhood obedience competitions. And I had a Norwegian elk hound at the time that my mother had gotten at a swap meet. And the girl down the street had a poodle. And she always won because that stinking poodle's so smart, you know?
Oh my gosh.
So when I could go to a real dog show, it was a thrill
Mm.
because you know, and I think this is funny, and maybe I should not share this, but when I was probably 5, and if I swore, my parents were divorced, my dad was a big cusser. I
Mm.
heard the words, and they were not allowed, and I would get soap in my mouth. Well,
Mhm.
my grandmother would refer to her female Carrie Blue as one would
Mhm.
a breeding dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I could not figure out why my grandmother did not get soap in her mouth.
Yeah, bitch was a common word in our household too. You know,
Yes, yes.
I just I can my one of my like most sort of traumatizing memories is in college, right? So I'd left the small town, right? I was in
Uh-huh.
college. I was with non-dog people, and I was
Uh-huh.
trying to explain to them the concept of a frozen semen breeding and
Oh.
collecting semen. And I mean, we're in like a restaurant and their eyes are
Oh my gosh. Is that
totally normal to me.
I know my husband and I bred our first litter, and we plan to breed some more, but this is in 2012, and we'd missed for 3 years. The bitch just spiked really fast, and everybody kept missing it. So we found a place in San Diego that was really respected for being able to properly track the progesterone.
Mhm.
So we had the stud dog. And we had those two dogs by design. I studied the pedigrees. I brought two dogs in. I finished them. I got all the health tests. I did not breed dogs I had because I had them. They were
Right,
selected.
right.
And so it just so happened she came in season. I had this art workshop where I was an attendee with a really famous artist. And it was down in San Clemente. So my husband is having to tote the dog and the bitch, back and forth to San Diego for the progesterone testing. And they had called on a Friday and said, she's not ready yet. You come back on Monday. And I said, no, 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 no. She is going to spike this weekend. We are going to miss it again. We want to come bring them down and have them tested. So on Saturday, so I'm in this class, and my husband, he's on the phone. It's time. We've done a side by side. He's saying all this stuff, and I'm like in this workshop, and everybody, they're kind of trying to listen. They don't know what I'm talking about, and and I'm looking around the workshop, and there's all these men in there, and I said, we've got a female in season. We're finally going to be able to breed her. And the swimmers are working. And everybody started clapping in this workshop. Hilarious.
Oh my
Hilarious.
God.
I
Yeah,
continue
dog
with,
world combined with outside world. Oh boy.
uh,
So So, aside from dogs, what is your sort of professional background that brought you to these books? Your most recent one is No Ghoulish Green Monsters, which I am dying to read. I can't even stand.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, I had 2 scholarships in art when
Mm,
I finished high school, to college, and I went into finance because I didn't think I could make it as a fine artist. My favorite subject, of course, was English and history. I love to read, I love to write, and at one point I was writing for a magazine, a pet column for a magazine. It was called West Coast Magazine, and it was in the community I was in. So I did an article um, every issue about pet care, what to do with your pet. And I joined the Dog Writers Association of America and the Cat Writers Association of America. And uh, I just combined my love of art and writing. And looking back on being a child with so many kids not acclimated with dogs and not realizing what a wonderful opportunity it is to find companionship, find security, and to use words to make the kids feel safe. And so in 1984, it was laid on my heart when I got my first Irish setter that I was going to do a book about an Irish setter for children and share my love of my dog. And I will tell kids all the time, if you don't have a dog, my dog is your dog. We are sharing. You can, I'll send you pictures. She'll be ours together. But I thought, what a great way to reach kids, especially now, because, everything's on the internet. I take Bling, who's the star of my book, to libraries and schools and different events so the kids can pet her and see her and ask me questions. And I was at a really big school, big private school, and I had two sessions I was doing a presentation for. One was kindergarten through second grade, and then third grade through sixth grade. And of course, I read the book to them, introduced Bling. We talked about the book. For the third graders to sixth graders, we talked about writing, talked about the power of words, talked about the illustrations, how you could really communicate. And in the illustrations, I have Bling to our breed standard, but she has expressions that the kids can recognize as an emotion. So there was this big old line where people wanted to come up and meet me and pet Bling. And I had shown them that, one question was, how do you train your dog? Well, I use clicker training. And so I got out the clicker and I said, showed him some things you could do with a dog. So this little boy comes up and he's really quiet. He was in the line waiting his turn. And I said, I want to engage the children. I want them to communicate with me. What do you want to be when you grow up? And he was really quiet. And he goes, a dog trainer. So I went over to my bag and I got the clicker and I put it in his hand. I go, you start today. And the smile on that little boy's face, my gosh, I mean, if no other reason for me for that entire year was to give that one child a clicker, it, you know, exactly. And that's what, I want to do. And before I even had my book come out, I had an art booth in Southern California in Palm Springs every year. And people would come to me that I'd never met. Is Bling here? We want to meet Bling. And she was taking pictures with kids so that's a reason why I'm writing. I want to give parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, nieces, whomever, a book to sit down and talk about dogs and talk about their fears. This first book, No Ghoulish Green Monsters, here has messages about facing fears because everybody's afraid of something, and I wanted kids to know it's okay to be afraid and talk about it. Don't be afraid by yourself. And in the book, Bling's left alone and she has her first responsibility. So that is something that kids can relate to. Oh no, my first responsibility. Well, she hears a noise and she thinks there's a monster. So what does she do? She's home alone. She teams up with the goldfish, sushi. So sushi, and there's also another meaning with sushi because what about handicapped children
Right.
that can't be as mobile in the family? So that's sushi. Sushi's the handicapped child that's not active but is active. And sushi can't talk. So sushi's signing, right? With the fins, pointing and doing things. And so between Bling and Sushi, they figure out, where the monster is. They catch the monster, and then they're able to celebrate that they accomplished a task that they set out to do. And so at the end of the book, it's about celebrating your accomplishments, no matter what they are, but that you can do more as a team. Don't try to do it by yourself. Feel good to, and then the bird cage is open. So Bling's laughing at the end of the book because she's like, I've done this. I got this. We're on to the next adventure.
Mm.
And the book comes with a free download that's on my website for anybody that buys the book. So if they want to make it into an educational tool, it's got a glossary and it talks about Irish setters. I've even made maps for kids to learn how to read a map. And some pictures and, coloring book page for the little ones, some things to research for the older ones. So I really wanted parents or adults, whomever they are, to have an opportunity to turn the book into an educational opportunity if they desired. And I've gotten pictures from people where the child's in the crib with the book because they want to sleep with the book.
Oh,
And I think, okay, I did my job.
I think that's
And
good.
yeah, and I came out with a coloring book to go with it because some of the older kids want to color. And I have, when you open the coloring book, on the right side's the image to color, and the left side is a little bit about what they're coloring. So the adults can read to the child can read if they're old enough to read, and then they have their own coloring space. So they can use their own creativity and do something, but having the image on one page only, they can tear it out and give it as a gift to their parent, a grandparent, a teacher. Uh, and the next book, I have, the manuscript done, and it's
Right.
called Bling is on the Trail of a Fluffy, Puffy Tail. And and she sees something and she thinks she knows what it is and she can't find it. So again, she has to reach out for help and talk to all the different animals she encounters on her path to figure out what's in her yard and beyond. And ultimately, she finds friendship and kindness in trying to solve mysteries. So it's more messages for the kids.
I love that. And the books are targeted to what age range, I guess.
They're targeted from 3 years old to 8 years old. But I found that the children that are younger than that, they love the pictures.
Sure.
So it's been a really good book for the illustrations. A private tutor is also here in Dallas using the book for kids that are in third grade, which is older than that, as a reading tool for dyslexic children.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's even though there's a targeted age group, I'm finding it's being used by ages younger and older, which is awesome.
Trupanion is revolutionizing medical insurance for pets by providing the best possible experience to our members. And it's not some space-age dream. It's happening now. We pay your veterinarian directly while you're checking out, and we're the only ones who can, which means you have decisions in seconds, and you don't have to wait for reimbursement. So unlike with other providers, you'll keep more money in your pocket. Ask your veterinarian if Trupanion can pay them directly, because there's pet insurance, and then there's Trupanion.
I've always been of the opinion that we can teach so many things, education purposes, with
Right.
using dogs, right? Like geography. Let's talk about Ireland and all the dogs, that kind of thing. I think world history, all kinds of really cool things that I think could be so amazingly educated, right? Using
Right.
dogs. Going forward, as you're developing this series, what are some of your goals that you're trying to accomplish in addition to giving the kids words and those kinds of things?
Right. Well, there's two things I wanted to do. I really wanted to promote purebred dogs. I really feel that our purebred dogs are taking, I don't want to say a back seat to rescue and designer dogs, but I think that people don't understand the preservation breeding that we have with purebred dogs. So I really want to promote that having a purebred dog is cool.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing. For the writing, I feel that it's timeless, that I want to make an impact. Dr. Seuss, for example, and I don't have any aspirations of being Dr. Seuss, but for example purposes,
Right.
he's still touching kids and educating kids. So I hope that in the future, when people think about me, they say, well, she wanted to reach out to children and make a difference. And I always look at kids and I say, that could be the next future president. That could be the next doctor that solves cancer. We don't know what these children are, but if I can have a positive impact on them and make them want to do better or be braver or to learn to ask for help and so they're not alone, whatever their need is, if somehow my book can touch those children in that way, then I've done my job. If,
100%.
yeah, because it seems anymore we're so into the computers. I see kids at the store with their the parents' iPads and phones, and I understand keeping the children distracted, and there's great educational things with that, and that's exactly why I wanted a real book, something they could touch, get their faces out of the computer. um, Years ago I went to have my eyes checked, and because I paint full time, the doctor was saying that I'm losing my focusing ability because I'm looking at the same distance constantly.
Sure.
And she had me taking like a pencil and taking it closer to my nose and out and focusing and doing these exercises and telling me I needed to get up and walk around. And I think of that with kids too, with these, tablets and the computers. And, get outside, walk your dog, throw the ball for the dog, look at a book and flip the pages and look up while you're reading. It's also exercises and what's healthy for them physically.
Mm-hmm.
And family time, sitting there, with the parents reading or the grandparents reading. I went and I was doing a library event one time, and Bling was with me, and I was reading my, no Ghoulish Green Monsters, and a little boy went up to the bookshelves and grabbed a book and went and stood next to me because he wanted me to read that book next. And then all of a sudden, all the kids went and got books. And I had this line to read all these books, and the librarians, giving me the sign, what do you want me to do? And I basically said, this is cool. Let's go. So I went through all those kids and I read whatever book they brought me to, and Bling's just laying there hanging. It
Well, and
was
I think the
beautiful.
reading with Rover and some of these programs where we bring our
Mhm.
dogs to the schools, to the libraries, to wherever,
Uh-huh.
I just think they're so incredibly powerful. And the stories
Mhm.
of, autistic kids or people, young children who really struggle with personal interaction or whatever it is, the
Mhm.
dog provides a conduit, a safe
Yes.
space. They can read to the dog, even if they can't read to you. They can
Yes.
read to the dog. And I love all of the things that we can do with our dogs in this exact space.
Exactly. Exactly. And it would be lovely if I could encourage people, kids to want to do more in school, to be an illustrator. And
Mm,
I spend a lot of time talking about that for the kids that are artistic, and donating my time and going to different events for kids and doing an art lesson. And for kids that want to write, I talk to them about books and how books make you feel and how you can make somebody else feel with words and why words are so important. And taking Bling to these functions with me, the kids being able to pet her and see her. And there's something, some breeds, like, there's a softness to their face that the children instantly feel safe with.
yeah.
And I think Irish setters are one of those breeds where it's an instant safety factor, the long hair. And if a child's afraid of her, which oftentimes I run into that,
Mhm.
I'll say, come here and just pet her. And I'll cup her head in my hand so they know that her face can't turn around.
Yeah.
And I'll put her ear in my other hand and I'll say, pet her ear, pet the hair. See how soft it is? Look how, and before long now they're petting her body, or, it's, um, I I just think that, like you were saying, the kids are not as social as they used to be. And I think that a dog allows them to have something that's another living something.
Hmm.
To,
Think about these kids, just the last, 20 years, right? Raised with no screen time. I have found as an absolutely grown ass adult that my attention span is less since I spend more
Mhm.
time, you know, doing social media or doing, stuff that I have to do on my phone. My attention span is less. I have a harder. So imagine a child who never actually learned anything else, right?
Yeah.
And I just think, I suspect, I think that the future is going to have sort of a backlash, and kind
Mhm.
of a screen free kind of world for kids as we see so much
Right, right.
challenges, I guess. I put that in a nice way. So many challenges for these kids that come from just nothing but screen time. And so anything that we can do with dogs, with physical hard touch it paper, I just think is amazing.
Right. Oh, exactly. And I'll go to a school and everybody will have a piece of paper and I'll put Blink's paw on the ground and I have them trace it.
Oh,
And then I say, okay, here's your assignment. I want to see what you're going to turn her paw into. And I go, let's think about it. What
wow.
could her paw be? Could it be a flower? Could it be a group of balloons?
Right.
Could it be a tree? So let me see what you're going to turn her paw into. And I've had teachers walk in the room where you walk in and it's just you could hear a pin drop
Mm,
because these kids are drawing and not saying. They're so focused.
mm.
And the teachers will be like, wow, what are you doing? How'd you do that? Yeah, uh, you know, um, it's amazing, and with technology today, at least I see this, is we've become a society where we expect instant results. Before, we'll laugh when we see an old movie where they've got a phone on the wall with a cord.
Right.
If somebody was on the phone, you couldn't get through because you got a busy signal. And if you went to the grocery store, nobody could contact you because your phone was on the wall in your house, right? Uh, So I think that with a dog and training and working with a dog, kids realize it's not instant because the dog has a personality and the dog has the desire to learn and interact and with a puppy. Well, we can't take it out until it's got all its shots. We can't really get it trained. And it's going to be maybe a year and a half. You're going to have to work a little bit every day because it can't get off the leash. It could run away. Or, there's things that it adds a patience and some downtime to that instant gratification.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, the other piece of it that I think about a lot is um, so many kids, again, don't have a lot of, they're not really good with their skills of direct, like eye contact and direct
Mm-hmm. Yes.
communication, right? They text
Mhm.
everything.
Right.
And I get it. I understand why. I'm not great with it myself. But again, dogs give them someone that's non-threatening, that they can
Yes.
start to develop those levels of social skills and build past that. And I just really believe in the power of that quite a bit.
Oh, and that's a good point. And I always show the kids when I'm showing them how I train Bling,
Mhm.
said she's got to look at me. And I tell them, I do this. I do this with my fingers, to their eyes back and forth. And I'll go, Bling, look at me. Look, look, look. And then when I get that eye contact, I click it and I go, when she looks at me, she gets a treat.
Right.
And that's how I train her. So that's another way of showing the kids, don't be afraid to have eye contact because it's a learning opportunity for the dog. And if they can make eye contact with an animal,
Yep.
then they're used to making eye contact
Yep.
and it can just radiate out from there. There's so much our dogs can teach the kids. And I'm sure have taught all of us who have had dogs.
Yes. I like I said, dogs have made me the human that I am. So I feel pretty
Absolutely.
strongly about that.
Absolutely. And it's so cool when I first moved back to Texas,
Mm,
this lady that I had met had a granddaughter who was at the time 6,
mm,
and she was dyslexic, and her older sister was a year older, was academically gifted.
Mm.
So the 6-year-old with dyslexia was really feeling bad when she went into kindergarten because she felt like she was floundering. So the grandmother said, "Can I bring her over and can you do a private art lesson with Bling?" I said, "Absolutely." And I don't charge. I just wanted to help this girl. So when she came over, I'd gotten her a little apron and it said Bling's Art Club on it and had her name and her favorite color's pink. So I got a little girl's apron, art apron in pink. And it was so cool. And she loves owls. So I had
Mm.
sketched out an owl for her. So we were going to learn how to paint the owl together. And that way, the sketch was all. And Bling was there. And, I'd get Bling to hold a paintbrush in her mouth and say, "Okay, give the paintbrush." It
Right.
was so awesome. But I really feel that helped her feel like she had something special she could do that her sister might not do because her sister isn't as interested in the art as she is.
Yeah.
So, little baby steps. Who
Yeah.
knows? She might be the first astronaut on Mars. Yeah, you don't know, right?
No, you don't know. And, even if they're not the president or the first astronaut on Mars,
Hmm.
um, just being a functioning human is a thing.
Yeah,
And that's what dogs gave
absolutely.
me.
Hmm.
And working with dogs was my um, special skill. My brother
Uh-huh.
was, I mean, we were all smart, whatever, but my brother was, good looking and athletic and I was kind of the not any of those things. And so the dogs were what was my special space. And I
Sure.
think that every child, no matter what, no matter where they go in life, has to have their special space to
Hmm.
help them develop into a strong, confident human.
Right.
And that's really critical. And dogs have a lot of opportunities to help kids with that. So
Oh, absolutely. I can't imagine not having a dog. I can't imagine I would have been without a dog. And when I met my husband, my Irish setter hated men, hated him. I don't know why, she just did. And she liked him. So I
right.
tell people, my husband was picked by my dog.
Hmm.
And that was a criteria when I was looking for somebody is that they liked to have pets because
Yeah.
I wasn't negotiable. I
No,
mean,
non-negotiable is right.
right, non-negotiable. And so it's always interesting to meet people when they have rescues and they'll try to push, rescue on me or their designer dog, and I'll say, "Does your dog's heart beat?" And they said, "Yes." And I go, "Well, you know what? So does mine. My dog's heart beats. So why is it better to have a rescue than a purebred? If you want a rescue, I respect that. But if I want a purebred,
Mm.
you need to respect that."
Absolutely.
And I think that the purebred dogs have such you know what personality you're getting
Yes.
for the most part. Each breed has a tendency.
Hmm.
I had a lady who worked for me that her son's friend in soccer's parents had a dog that had pups, and it had all kinds of aggressive breeds in it. And by the time it was 4 months old, it was biting her kids. Had bitten both of her kids. It was only 4 months old puppy. And some dogs are more aggressive than others, and ultimately they had to get rid of the dog. But if you have a family and you want just a good dog to play with the kids, you can look at the breeds personalities and get that.
Yeah.
And I just think that there's a stability with the purebred dogs that they offer families and they offer people that.
And a well-raised, well-bred, purebred dog,
Mhm.
you aren't fixing somebody else's problem. You are getting the
Exactly.
gift of someone who has put untold hours and there's no guarantees in life, but that ability to know that you have a good head start, and you're not starting from behind, I think is really, really important. So
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I would like to see, more opportunities for the public to interact with the purebred dogs, where I don't know that we've got Meet the Breeds at the, AKC of, events, which is awesome. But when you take your dog out, we always socialize our puppies. We take them to coffee shops, we take them to Home Depot, we take them places. And if somebody, I always have treats in my pocket. And if somebody's in the store and they're afraid of the dog, I'll just say, would you like to give my dog a treat?
Yeah.
Because now it's not as uncomfortable for them because they don't have to pet the dog.
Right.
But I know my dog, and I'm not ever going to put my dog in a situation where I would be concerned, for anyone around me. So um, I feel confident doing what I do, but it gives people a chance. And I can't tell you how many people go, what kind of dog is that? Because, people, you don't see the Irish setters that much. Or people go, is that an Irish setter? It is. It is. So it's wonderful. And I always, when I see somebody that has a purebred dog, I'll go, oh my gosh, you've got an Afghan. Oh, what a great breed. That my grandfather loved those. And to see them, they're all happy when you know what kind of dog you
Right.
have, because
Right.
you're,
Right.
so it's
It's pretty amazing stuff.
right.
Okay, Dawn, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Listeners, we will have contact information for how to acquire your own copy of No Ghoulish Green Monsters and more information about Bling and all of her adventures. So, Dawn, I really appreciate you giving us your time. It's been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast and visit with you. It's awesome.